our main character and protagonist, G. Westinghouse. That is his name from his parent company given to him that sponsors him. And he is an excellent video game performer. So excellent, in fact, that he's almost too excellent. And people sort of judge him as somebody who's a little too mechanical and doesn't have enough spirit and enough ferocity. So in order to sort of spite them, he pulls a little bit of a prank in his very last competitive tournament, which is a bit of a plot twist I won't spoil for you, but it gets him into some trouble because he kind of exploits the system. He doesn't cheat, he kind of exploits it. It's just kind of a dirty move, but he doesn't care. And so when we're into the story is the arrival of the sergeant just after he pulled this trick. The sergeant has come to the Supercenter in order to graduate the students that are going to go on to visit this faraway planet of PepsiCon, where they will fight actual combatants with actual machine guns. That is the future that lies in store for the best performing people in the video game system. I will interrupt and mention anything more, but I'm trying to give you as little information as possible. So this is our introduction, this is well into the book, page 125, of our Sergeant Hildebrand. And after that, I am going to give you a little bit more background information. So let me just jump in. The U.S. Army had very little interest in the internal affairs of supercenters, but they did on occasion send a representative to hold an obligatory ceremony before a batch of recruits boarded the X-2 deep space shuttle, ostensibly bound for the planet PepsiCon, many light years away on the far side of the Milky Way galaxy. Thus, Sergeant Hildebrand theoretically traveled this great cosmic stretch to welcome this season's batch of top siege arena performers into the official ranks of the U.S. Army. The ceremony included all 312 associates squeezed down center aisle, save Sam Torino, who would watch from the security cameras in his office. Blue vests would be turned in for olive drab, and a medal pinned to each recruit proven dexterous and cunning enough to rise to the highest ranks, cultivate the highest shot-to-kill ratios, and execute the most aggressive battle tactics. Sergeant Hildebrand was a stocky man, his crisp, severe uniform kept impeccably sharp, clean, and austere. Even in casual conversation, it wasn't unusual to find him standing in the military poise of parade rest, feet shoulder-width apart, shoulders square, and hands clasped tightly behind his back. A lifetime of active duty coerced him to even sleep in the posture of a prone parade rest. Without a doubt, Sergeant Hildebrand found graduation day to be his least favorite military function. This was on account of him receiving far less fanfare at the time of his own recruitment. Upon signing the enlistment papers, he became Private Hildebrand, was promptly and without applause placed on a bus along with nearly 24 other young men and women who had the misfortune of attending the same college as himself and doing so without scholarship or trust fund. The Student Loan Association worked closely with the military to see that the repayment schedule all but necessitated enlistment in order to wipe out a staggering debt no vocation had any hope of amortizing. The recruiter simply made him an offer he could not refuse, this offer being the absolution of his staggering student loan debt and the guarantee of a home for his young wife and son. After all, Hildebrand realized too late, in no way could it possibly cost a student $40,000 per year to earn an undergraduate degree. And the U.S. military would not really reimburse this college the same figure for the honor of shaving Private Hildebrand's head and sending him to war against New Dixie separatists. No, his college degree was mere bait, used to sustain skyrocketing recruitment quotas as war raged between the surviving bastions of structured American capitalism, secured safely within closed buyout supercenters, and the newly risen South. Not to mention a third faction, the great betrayers west of the Rockies, the Pacific Coast states, who happily let the Midwest turn into a battleground and buffer between themselves as the rampaging Southerners moved forward. The Western states withdrew all support and declared themselves a sovereign nation separate from the East. As far as Sergeant Hildebrand was concerned, even more spies than those who started the war in the first place was the newly formed hippie nation of Cascadia. 4 hours after signing up, Private Hildebrand found himself humiliated and harassed by a drill sergeant who would go on to haunt his nightmares to this day. Unlike this afternoon of decorum, never at any moment was this situation billed as an improvement or an accomplishment. However, today's military was much friendlier than back then. BIAL proved itself a reliable source of new recruits, highly skilled in firearms and already well desensitized to the violence and danger attendant to combat. Or at least, that was the theory. So it had come to pass that Sergeant Hildebrand would visit 17 Bial Supercenters around the Fort Leonard Wood military base in southern Missouri and laud commendations upon those he personally considered overrated video game junkies in order to impress the rabble. More difficult for Hildebrand than even this, however, were the silly lies built to promote the war. Like any good soldier, Sergeant Hildebrand was a terrible liar, but he did his best to follow orders and to preserve the illusion that interplanetary warfare held Bial intact. The moment Sergeant Hildebrand burst through the shuttle bay doors, to the shock and awe of many shoppers and passers-by, he focused his eyes down the outer aisle and toward the blighted automotive department, where he could trace the smell of evaporating fingernail polish remover. Upon hearing the steady clomp of combat boots on the tile floor, and then at last seeing the form of Hildebrand bearing down upon them, the sentry standing guard outside aisle 39 at once abandoned their post. Hildebrand threw back the tarp and marched to the rear of the aisle, only to find both Brett and his top-performing, record-breaking recruit trading off turns on Battle for PepsiCon pinball. "I see you've taken this little hacker into your huddle," Hildebrand announced, just as Brett managed to send the pinball up the far ramp, where it wound around and settled gently into a miniature rocket ship. "I see you've decided to come back and visit me," Brett said as he launched a new ball. Hildebrand picked up one of nearly 24 empty bottles of fingernail polish remover, sniffed the neck, and winced. "You maggots been giving each other pedicures?" "Yeah." Brett stepped away and let the pinball drain. He raised his arms wide. "Thought I'd open a salon, you know." Hildebrand had no clue to the process of tile melts manufacture, legal psychedelic that is circulating in the store, and this was something Brett wished to remain secret. "Two of you can bring each other to up Rizos over as far as I care. I'm just here for my graduates." G perked up at this. "We're going to PepsiCon?" "My graduates are, ones that know how to play by the rules." Brett stepped up. "If you've got a problem with me, don't take it out on the kid." Something, Hildebrand squinted accusatorily, or someone had to have gotten into his head. "I never taught him that shot. He operated in direct violation of arena rules." "I did not," G cried. Hildebrand pressed his lips together and his jaw shifted. "You shot a live competitor at store 1283 without a single chance to begin the round. Damn near cost that kid his own graduation." "Improvisation," Brett countered. "A good soldier takes no risks, exploits every angle." "He deceived his opponent. It's bad sportsmanship." "Sportsmanship, honestly," Brett asked sarcastically. "Is that how attached you are now? Have so many war games turned war itself into a game? All war is based on deception. What the hell do you think we're telling these kids in the first place? Watch your tongue, civilian. You had your chance to run the system the way you like." "Just asking you, let the boy go. His turn is up." "Ha! He will find plenty of other turns waiting for him. Infinite rounds of floor polishing for all I care." G.E. dropped his head in disbelief. "If G.E. doesn't go, I have the means to turn this place upside down," Brett warned. "You asked me to deliver a first-person shooter based on the America's Army gaming engine. You got your system. So where's my ticket to Portland?" Hildebrand smiled as he strode slowly to Brett's face. "Upside down, you say?" Hildebrand began, nodding, smirk still plastered on his face. "I've got news for you. This place is goddamn utopia. I'm down to 17 other supercenters in my territory, and some are nothing more than aisle after aisle of assembly lines for artillery. You want to see this place go that route? I'd be happy to run a chain link fence around the electronics department, and you'd just be glad to have your bowl of soup filled every day in exchange for how many shells you can crank out between sunup and sundown." Hildebrand's face was beet red. He finally took a breath. "Come to think of it, I don't remember this sort of insolence when we found you deserting for Kansas." "I did not desert. I didn't have any choice." "No choice! You begged us to let you into the Supercenter project. You think things have turned around out there? They haven't. You don't know what it's like losing communication with the Supercenter. You go there expecting to find a dozen well-groomed recruits, and instead you find a smoldering black crater, maybe a few badly burned survivors. No clue what hit them. Their home picked over, the goddamn molding ripped off the shelves. The enemy washes through like a wave of rats and disappears. If you want to sow chaos in this Supercenter, have at it. I'm after one thing and one thing only: personnel." He glanced at GE. "Quality personnel, and I'll take whatever means to achieve it." "And me?" Brett asked. "What about you? Will I be graduating too?" "You will stay and await further orders, civilian. You promised me at least passage to Nevada. That was 2 summers ago, assuming the clocks in this place are working, and I have my doubts. Feels more like 6. In exchange for a flawless training system. Flawless. Not one where all you have to do is fire a single round at the start and whistle and kill your opponent. Plus that little exploit cost me a recruit." Can't be serious, Brett began, astounded that Hildebrand would both disqualify GE and betray his promise, all based on the same stupid event. But Sergeant Hildebrand did not give him an opportunity to continue. He sniffed deeply and scowled at the acerbic scent that filled the aisle and walked away. Graduation begins in 0100 hours, so man up, soldier. I expect to find you in the front row. You will support your fellow recruits who have the wherewithal to play the game as it was intended to be played. So, we're going to jump ahead now.